Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Paddy, for the introduction. As I said, as Paddy was saying, I'm Dennis Novy. I'm the Chief Economist for the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. And it's my pleasure to be here this morning and open this event. I would first like to begin by expressing my thanks to British International Investment and also the PEDAL initiative, Private Enterprise Development in Low-Income Countries, for their efforts in organizing today's gathering. FCDO set up BII in 1948 under the Overseas Resources Development Act, and back then it was called the Colonial Development Corporation, CDC, and it had a very simple mission from the start, which is to do good without losing money. PEDAL is a joint research initiative of CEPR, the Center for Economic Policy Research, and the FCDO that we launched in 2011. And it's part of FCDO's wider growth research platform and has awarded over 350 research grants for projects related to the behavior of firms in low-income countries. And CEPR is a wider partner for us. PEDAL is one initiative. We also work with CEPR on others, for example, the STEG, Structural Transformation Initiative. So this is a very important partner to us. I'm excited to see today and welcome a mix of researchers, private sector leaders, and investors here in the room, and welcome all of you who have joined today and who might join us online. I'm optimistic that by bringing together such a diverse range of expertise, we can have a meaningful discussion about the challenges and opportunities of climate technology adoption predominantly in Asia and Africa. Collaboration between researchers and practitioners can accelerate the development of practical solutions and drive real impact. I'm going to say a few things about climate adaptation and finance needs by way of background. In 2023, Sub-Saharan Africa received about $47 billion in climate finance, and that just represented 2% of global flows, and it is falling well short of the estimated $140 to $300 billion that are estimated to be needed annually by 2030. And that's for climate adaptation alone. And of all this amount, only 30% was sourced from private finance. Now, these numbers vary by source, and as we all know, they can be very difficult to come up with, so we shouldn't get fixated on them. But the key point is that necessary and desirable investments in climate technology are not happening at the scale needed, neither in Africa nor in Asia. And therefore, we should collectively be looking for ways to find the most catalytic and efficient ways of financing those investments. And that is a big part of today's event. New climate technologies designed for the unique challenges in Africa and Asia are needed and increasingly available, but not always scaling at the pace needed. As an example, the University of Chicago has done research finding that climate-resilient crops could mitigate billions of lost agricultural production and could generate about $24 of economic benefit for every $1 spent catalyzing private sector flows. Research, innovation, and interventions tilting the playing field in favor of clean solutions will be key, because enabling climate innovation requires both push and pull. And where, for example, fossil fuel subsidies remain in place, or where there's no price signal from the market whatsoever on climate or social benefits, then investment and uptake might be slow and too slow. Now, the UK has a strong history of working with the private sector to scale up technology and innovation, and public finance will never be able to provide all the necessary investments at sufficient pace. Paddy mentioned that, as everybody knows in this room, the finances are tightening there, not just in the UK, but globally. That's probably a fair statement to make. As the UK's development finance institution, BII is at the forefront of our financing offer to emerging economies, driving innovation and impact where greater finance is crucially needed. In 2024 alone, they committed £708 million in climate finance. The UK also supports upstream innovation, building the pipeline of investments through strong partnerships, and there's flagship initiatives like our ITIN fund that have supported innovations that have improved clean energy for more than 37 million people and leveraged more than £1.5 billion from the private sector, with BII increasingly participating in the scale-up of these innovations. So to conclude, in this new development world, with ever more emphasis being placed on the importance of private investment mobilization, there's increasing pressure on DFIs to more clearly demonstrate impact. And this is why research is so important, and this is why this link to PEDAL is so important. Our ministers do ask about this. They do want to see impact. So we need to link up all these various initiatives through BII and the fantastic private sector involvement with top-level research. This is ever more crucial to justify the funding. There's evidence that DFI investment generates jobs at the national and at the portfolio level, but we don't have a deep enough understanding yet of spillovers and impacts beyond the firm. And this is, again, where research is really crucial to make that case that there are spillovers beyond the firm and where they happen and how and what works and what does not work. PEDAL formed a dedicated research theme, partnering with BII to try and fill precisely that evidence gap. And research can help DFIs to better understand the channels through which investments affect livelihoods. But doing so requires everyone in this room today, so that's researchers, investors, and private sector leaders, to communicate and work together to develop the knowledge agenda. And workshops such as this one today are an ideal opportunity to help bring research into practice and get researchers closer to the issues that matter most for private investors and public impact. And I hope that in that spirit, this is going to be a successful day, and I hope you will all talk to each other and come up with new ideas and play around with new initiatives. And thank you so much again to BII for organizing this event, everybody for coming and hosting us. Thank you so much.